There is a city in the middle of one of the most hostile deserts on Earth. No natural port, no river running through it, no farmland, barely any water. It sits in a valley surrounded by mountains, baked under a sun that pushes temperatures past 115 degrees in the summer. By every rule of geography and common sense, this city should not exist. And yet, roughly 2.4 million people call it home. Tens of millions more fly in every year to spend money in ways they won't tell their families about. And right now, in 2026, this city is adding residents faster than almost any other metro in the United States. This is Las Vegas. And the story of how it got here is one of the strangest, most ruthless, and most fascinating stories in American history. Because this city was not built by careful planners or visionary politicians. It was built by railroad barons, Depression-era workers, mobsters with expensive taste, federal nuclear scientists, and eventually corporate America. And at every single step, the city should have failed. It kept not failing. That's the story we're telling today. We are going to go back to the beginning, to the springs that first drew ancient people to this valley. We're going to move through the railroad auction that started it all, the federal dam project that gave it power and water, the single law change that cracked the door open for everything that followed, and the gangster who walked through that door and built a palace in the sand. Then we're going to talk about the thing almost nobody puts in a Las Vegas documentary. The fact that for over a decade, Las Vegas residents could sit on casino rooftops and watch nuclear bombs explode in the desert. We'll cover the corporate takeover that cleaned up the mob era, the crash that nearly destroyed the city in 2008, and the strange reinvention happening right now. By the end, you will understand not just what Las Vegas is, but why it keeps surviving things that would kill other cities. Long before Las Vegas was a city, it was a stopping point. The name itself, Las Vegas, comes from the Spanish, meaning the meadows. A Mexican explorer named Antonio Armijo first used the name in 1829, describing the natural springs that made this valley livable in an otherwise unlivable desert. Those springs were the reason anyone was here at all. The southern Paiute people had known about them for centuries. Spanish missionaries and traders found them along the old Spanish Trail. And later, in 1855, Brigham Young sent 30 Mormon settlers to build a fort near those springs, the first non-native permanent settlement in the valley. The fort didn't last long. The Paiute people rejected the missionaries' attempts to teach them farming, occasionally raided the fort, and the Mormons eventually abandoned the settlement. But it proved something important, that the Las Vegas Valley could sustain human habitation even in the desert. The real founding moment came on May 15, 1905. A railroad, specifically the San Pedro, Los Angeles, and Salt Lake Railroad, backed by Senator William Clark, needed a waypoint between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City. The Las Vegas Valley sat roughly in the middle. On that date, 110 acres of flat desert were auctioned off. Streets were laid out. A town was born. Las Vegas was officially founded as a place because it was useful to a train. That's it. That was the entire reason. And within a few years, it had been incorporated as a proper city, with about 1,500 residents and a handful of businesses clustered around Fremont Street. By 1930, the population had crept up to about 5,200 people. It was a small, rough railroad town in the desert. And then the federal government showed up. In 1931, the United States government began construction on the Hoover Dam, a massive hydroelectric project on the Colorado River, about 30 miles southeast of Las Vegas. The dam was built to control flooding, generate electricity, and create a reliable water supply for the southwestern United States. Its construction during the Great Depression brought thousands of workers flooding into the Las Vegas area. Those workers needed places to eat, sleep, drink, and spend their wages. Las Vegas provided all of those things. The dam's completion in 1935, dedicated by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, did something else just as important. It created Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the United States. And it connected the Las Vegas Valley to a massive, reliable water supply. Without Hoover Dam, Las Vegas as we know it is simply not possible. The city's entire modern existence was unlocked by that single federal construction project. 3.25 million cubic yards of concrete poured over 4 years in a canyon in the Mojave. And 30 miles away, a desert town started its transformation. Now here is where the story gets genuinely strange. The same year the Hoover Dam construction began, 1931, the state of Nevada made a decision that would change American culture forever. On March 19, 1931, Nevada's Governor Fred Balzar signed Assembly Bill 98. With one stroke of a pen, gambling became legal in Nevada. It barely made headlines at the time. The Las Vegas newspaper reported it in a single short paragraph, buried at the bottom of the front page. One local official told reporters not to get excited. Things would be pretty much the same as before, just more openly. He was wrong. Very wrong. But the real transformation didn't happen overnight. The Depression was still raging. Banks weren't handing out construction loans for casinos. The first years of legal gambling in Las Vegas looked more like loose card games in small downtown clubs than anything resembling the Strip. The true explosion was coming, and it needed a very specific kind of person to light the fuse. His name was Benjamin Siegel. Most people knew him as Bugsy, a nickname he reportedly hated, because it referred to his notoriously unpredictable, violent temper. He had grown up poor in Brooklyn, befriended Meyer Lansky as a teenager, and built his way into the upper tier of the National Crime Syndicate, the organized crime network that connected the Italian and Jewish mobs across America. By the early 1940s, Siegel had come to Los Angeles to manage the syndicate's West Coast operations. He was handsome, he was charming, he rubbed shoulders with Hollywood stars, and he had a vision. In 1945, Siegel and his partners bought the El Cortez Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Then, in 1946, he took over construction of a new project that was already underway on what was then a mostly empty stretch of road south of downtown, later known as Las Vegas Boulevard, or the Strip. The project was called the Flamingo. Siegel saw it as something radical, not just a gambling hall, but a full resort. Luxury rooms, fine dining, a showroom, a swimming pool, everything a high roller could want, all in one desert palace. The idea was brilliant. The execution was a disaster. Construction costs ballooned. Money went missing, possibly into Siegel's own pocket, though this was never proven. His mob backers grew furious. When the Flamingo opened on December 26, 1946, it was only half finished. The luxury rooms weren't ready. The air conditioning barely worked. The grand opening was a humiliation. The casino lost money and closed within a month. Siegel was given a second chance. The Flamingo reopened in March 1947 and started turning a profit. But it was too late. The mob's patience had run out. On June 20, 1947, Benjamin Siegel was shot dead in the living room of his girlfriend's house in Beverly Hills. The murder was never solved. Within minutes of his death, his associates had already taken over the Flamingo. The killing made national news, and in a strange way it made Las Vegas famous, because the story of a glamorous gangster building a palace in the desert and dying for it. That story told the world that Las Vegas was a place where extraordinary things happened. The mob stayed in Las Vegas for decades after Siegel. Different families, different casinos. From roughly 1950 to the early 1980s, organized crime was deeply embedded in the casino industry, skimming profits, corrupting officials, and running what amounted to a parallel financial system. The FBI eventually dismantled most of it through wiretaps and a series of prosecutions. The mob era is over, but its fingerprints are still visible in the bones of the city. Now we get to the part of the Las Vegas story that almost nobody talks about. In December 1950, President Harry Truman authorized the creation of the Nevada Proving Ground, a 680-square-mile federal testing facility about 65 miles northwest of Las Vegas. Starting January 27, 1951, the United States military began detonating nuclear weapons there. Over the next 12 years, they detonated 120 nuclear devices above ground, an average of one every 5 weeks. The mushroom clouds were visible from downtown Las Vegas. And here is the thing, residents didn't just tolerate it. They went to the rooftops. Casinos hosted bomb parties. The Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce actually promoted the testing schedule as a tourist attraction. You could watch a nuclear bomb go off in the desert from the roof of your casino hotel with a cocktail in your hand. Casinos near the test site even offered atomic cocktails and Miss Atomic Bomb beauty pageants. Las Vegas was the only city on Earth where nuclear weapons testing was part of the entertainment calendar. Historians have noted that the atomic testing program gave Las Vegas a strange kind of legitimacy. Suddenly, this gambling town in the desert was part of the Cold War, part of the defense of America. More than 900 nuclear tests were eventually conducted at the Nevada site, the last in 1992. The long-term health consequences for nearby communities and downwinders in Utah were serious and have been documented. But in the 1950s, in Las Vegas, the bomb was a spectacle. Through all of this, the mob era, the atomic tests, Las Vegas was growing. Casinos expanded from small downtown clubs to enormous strip resorts. The Desert Inn, the Sands, the Riviera, the Stardust, each one larger and more lavish than the last. Entertainment became central. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and the Rat Pack were regulars on the Strip. Elvis Presley famously staged a comeback at the International Hotel in 1969. Las Vegas had become the entertainment capital of America, and possibly the world. But it was also still a mob town, and that created a ceiling on what the city could become. The transformation came in 1966 when an eccentric billionaire named Howard Hughes checked into the Desert Inn. The hotel management wanted him to leave after 10 days. Instead, he bought it. And then he kept buying. The Sands, the Castaways, the Silver Slipper, the Frontier. Hughes represented something new. Legitimate corporate money flowing into an industry that had been dominated by organized crime. His arrival began the slow, decades-long process of corporatizing Las Vegas. By the 1980s and 1990s, major public companies like MGM and Hilton had moved into the casino business. The Nevada Gaming Control Board tightened licensing and oversight. The mob's grip loosened. The image of Las Vegas shifted from dangerous underworld playground to mainstream entertainment destination, a place families could visit, conventions could be hosted, and publicly traded corporations could operate. The 1990s were, by almost any measure, the greatest boom years in Las Vegas history. Megaresorts opened one after another. The Mirage in 1989, the Excalibur in 1990, the MGM Grand in 1993, the Luxor in 1993, Bellagio in 1998. Each one was bigger, more spectacular, and more expensive than the last. Bellagio alone cost $1.6 billion to build. The city's population was exploding. By 2000, Las Vegas had over 480,000 residents in the city proper and nearly 1.4 million in the metro area. Housing developments were spreading across the desert as fast as builders could pour concrete. Newcomers were arriving from California, the Midwest, and everywhere else, drawn by cheap housing, no state income tax, year-round sunshine, and jobs in the booming hospitality industry. And then 2008 happened. The 2008 financial crisis hit Las Vegas harder than almost any city in America. When the housing bubble burst, Las Vegas was at the absolute epicenter of the collapse. Home values in the valley had skyrocketed during the early 2000s, and when they fell catastrophically. Home prices dropped an estimated 63% from peak to trough. Nevada had one of the highest foreclosure rates in the nation. The casino industry, which runs on consumer discretionary spending, took a brutal hit as Americans stopped flying in and started cutting back. Unemployment in the Las Vegas metro spiked sharply. Entire housing subdivisions sat half-finished in the desert. Las Vegas went from America's hottest real estate market to something that looked, in some zip codes, like a ghost town. It was the worst single peacetime economic event in the city's modern history. But Las Vegas did what it had always done. It survived, and then it reinvented itself. Recovery came slowly through the early 2000s. By the mid-2000s, Las Vegas was growing again. And this time, the growth was different. It wasn't just casinos. The city's leaders and economic development agencies had learned a painful lesson from 2008. Over-reliance on a single industry is a fatal vulnerability. Las Vegas began actively recruiting technology companies, logistics firms, healthcare providers, and manufacturers. Nevada's tax structure, no state income tax, relatively low corporate taxes, was a powerful recruiting tool, especially as California's taxes made businesses restless. Then came the sports. In 2017, the Vegas Golden Knights became the city's first major professional sports franchise, a brand new NHL expansion team. In the Golden Knights' very first season, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. It was one of the most remarkable inaugural seasons in professional sports history, and it did something important for Las Vegas. It gave the city an identity as a sports town. The Raiders followed, relocating from Oakland in 2020 into the brand new Allegiant Stadium, a $2 billion facility in the shadow of the Strip. The Vegas Aces, the WNBA team, became back-to-back champions in 2022 and 2023. And in late 2023, Formula One came to Las Vegas, a street circuit running right down the Strip. The inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix generated an estimated $1.5 billion in economic impact, making it the single most economically impactful event in the city's history. In 2024, it generated $934 million in its second year, cementing its status as the city's largest recurring event. Major League Baseball also approved the Oakland Athletics' move to Las Vegas, with a new ballpark on the Strip expected to open in 2028. In roughly 6 years, Las Vegas transformed from a city with no major professional sports to one of the most sports-active markets in America. Meanwhile, in September 2023, a $2.3 billion spherical entertainment venue opened near the Venetian Resort, the MSG Sphere. At 366 feet tall and 516 feet wide, it is the largest spherical structure in the world. The exterior alone is a programmable LED screen visible for miles. Inside, 20,000 seats surround an immersive screen that wraps around the entire audience. U2 opened the building. Since then, it has hosted Dead & Company, the Eagles, the Backstreet Boys, and various other events. The Sphere represents something new. Las Vegas is no longer just about gambling and shows. It is becoming a testing ground for the future of entertainment itself. So where does Las Vegas stand today? The city of Las Vegas proper has a 2026 population of approximately 694,500, with the greater metro area, including Henderson and North Las Vegas, reaching 2.4 million people. The metro has grown faster than almost any other in the country since 2020, outpacing the national growth rate by a significant margin. People are coming from California, the Pacific Northwest, and the Midwest, chasing Nevada's zero state income tax, relatively lower cost of living compared to coastal cities, and a job market that is genuinely diversifying. In 2025, the Las Vegas metropolitan area's GDP was on track to exceed $215 billion for the state of Nevada overall, with the Las Vegas region serving as the primary economic engine. Education and healthcare have actually been the fastest-growing job sectors over the past decade, adding approximately 39,000 jobs, ahead of transportation and logistics. The hospitality sector, while massive, employing roughly 302,900 people directly, is no longer the only story. The housing market tells an interesting story of its own. The median home price in the Las Vegas Valley was around $480,000 at the end of 2025. A figure that would have seemed absurd to a buyer in 2012 when prices had cratered after 2008. Inventory is up from pandemic-era lows, and prices have cooled from their 2022 peaks. A household today needs to earn around $111,000 a year to comfortably afford a home in the valley, a number that has nearly tripled since 2015. Las Vegas is still cheaper than Los Angeles, San Francisco, or Seattle. But it is no longer the cheap desert escape it once was. Crime in Las Vegas is a real and complicated issue. The city's overall crime rate is higher than the national average. This is partially attributable to the transient nature of a major tourism destination. However, the trend line is moving in the right direction. Total reported crime through August 2025 was down significantly from the same period in 2024. Murders dropped 22% in 2025 compared to the prior year. The city is not a war zone. But it is not a quiet suburb either. The concentrated nature of the Strip and downtown core, combined with the 24-hour economy, creates conditions that require significant policing. And then there is the water. This is arguably the most serious long-term threat facing Las Vegas. The city gets roughly 90% of its water from the Colorado River, stored in Lake Mead behind Hoover Dam. Since January 2000, the water level in Lake Mead has dropped approximately 160 feet. The Southwest has been experiencing the worst drought in recorded history, and scientists warn that the situation is expected to worsen. The Las Vegas Valley Water District recycles 100% of its wastewater, a remarkable conservation achievement. But the underlying supply from the Colorado River is being shared among 7 states plus Mexico, and the overall allocation has been declining. This is not a problem unique to Las Vegas, but Las Vegas is uniquely exposed, a city of 2.4 million people in the middle of the Mojave Desert, dependent on one reservoir in a 25-year drought. That is a real challenge. Local officials are investing in conservation, recycling, and contingency planning. But the water question hangs over the city's future like a dark cloud that never delivers rain. What is Las Vegas known for today? Obviously gambling and entertainment, but the real identity of the city is more complex than that. Las Vegas is the conventions capital of North America. More conventions are held here than anywhere else in the country, drawing millions of business travelers each year who have nothing to do with the casino floor. Las Vegas is a sports city, with the Golden Knights, the Raiders, the Aces, the A's arriving in 2028, and now Formula One. It is becoming a technology hub, a logistics corridor, a healthcare market, and a testing ground for new entertainment technology. The Sphere is a physical symbol of what Las Vegas wants to be next. And the people who live here, not the tourists, but the actual residents, they have a complicated relationship with their city's reputation. Locals will tell you that Las Vegas is, in many ways, an extremely normal American city. There are suburbs, there are school districts, there are traffic jams, there are youth soccer leagues. The Strip is where tourists go. Most locals spend their lives largely removed from the casino floor. The challenge for locals is that the city's infrastructure was designed around rapid growth, and it is still catching up. On schools, on roads, on water management, on healthcare capacity. So what is Las Vegas really? It is a city built on an unlikely sequence of events: a railroad auction, a federal dam project, a one-paragraph law change, a mobster's ambition, atomic weapons testing, a corporate takeover, a devastating crash, and a relentless willingness to reinvent. It is a city that has used geography as an advantage rather than a limitation, turning a hostile desert into a destination that 41.7 million people visited in 2024 alone. It is a city that is more economically complex than its neon facade suggests, and more fragile than its confident skyline implies. The water will define the next chapter. The sports franchises in the Sphere and the Formula One race are already writing the one after that. Las Vegas is not declining, it is not resting, it is doing what it has always done, betting on itself in a place where that kind of bet has, against all odds, kept paying off.